The wind outside howled like a ghost, cold and sharp across the red Martian soil. Inside the research station, everything was silent. Commander Eli sat alone in the control room. Typing into his digital logbook, most of the crew had gone into cryosleep for the next phase of the mission. Only Eli stayed awake, monitoring, maintaining, waiting. The heater hummed softly behind him, keeping the cold at bay. Mars was a lonely place, even with others nearby. But tonight, something felt different. At exactly midnight, the heater stopped humming. Eli frowned, checking the screen. No error. No alert. Then a knock. Soft, slow, almost too quiet to hear. But it came again, louder this time. 3 knocks. Coming from the main airlock door, Eli froze. No one was. Outside, no crew scheduled to return, and no signal had come from Earth. He turned on the external camera. At first, all he saw was dust blowing in the dark. Then movement, a girl. She stood barefoot on the metal platform outside the airlock. Her clothes were thin, torn, almost frozen to her skin. Her arms were wrapped around her chest, shivering badly. Her lips were blue. Her skin pale. No helmet, no oxygen tank, and yet she was alive. Impossible, Eli whispered, staring at the screen. He looked again. She raised her hand and knocked. Once more, her eyes were wide and still. She didn't speak, just stared at the camera, waiting. Eli's hands moved fast, unlocking the airlock, overriding the safety protocols. The system screamed a warning. Atmosphere breach, risk proceed. With caution, but he didn't care. Whoever she was, she would die in seconds if left out there. He opened the door. She collapsed into his arms. Cold as ice, he dragged her inside. Sealed the door and turned the heaters to maximum. She didn't speak, just shook silently. Her lips moved slightly, but no sound came. In her hand was a small, folded note. The paper was wet and nearly torn. He opened it slowly. Only 2 words were written, shaky and faint. Warm me? Eli looked at her, heart racing. She lay curled up on the floor near the heater. Her breathing was shallow, like someone half alive, half gone. She looked human, but something was wrong. Her eyes, now open, flashed a faint silver for a second. Too fast to be sure. Eli spoke gently. Who are you? Where did you come from? No answer, just a small shiver. He grabbed a thermal blanket, wrapped it around her, still no words. The lights flickered, then the heater shut off. The air turned cold, fast. Eli ran to the control panel. Everything showed normal, but systems were failing. No, he muttered, restarting the heat function. It refused. Behind him, the girl looked at him with wide, empty eyes. Then her lips moved, slowly, painfully. She whispered one word, so soft it barely touched the air. Please. Eli felt fear crawl up his spine. He didn't know why. He'd seen injuries, death, breakdowns, nothing like this. She looked like a ghost, but she was real. She had touched him, her skin had felt like ice, but also like memory. Old, painful, deep. The station AI Iris spoke suddenly, its voice cold and flat. Unknown presence detected. Non-human heat pattern, recommend quarantine. Eli stared at the girl. She was looking right at the speaker and crying. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but turned to mist before falling. The room grew colder by the second. Eli could see his breath. Now, he stepped closer, crouched beside her. Who are you really? He asked again. She didn't answer, but she reached out, slowly, and touched his hand. In that instant, a wave of warmth pulsed through his body. Not heat emotion, a flood of memories that weren't his. Loneliness, floating in dark space. Cold experiments, electric pain, silence, waiting, 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 then the image of Earth, home, and the words again, warm me. Eli gasped and pulled his hand away. The warmth vanished, replaced by freezing air. The heater system rebooted. Suddenly, lights flickered back on. She smiled faintly, her lips still shaking. Then her eyes closed, and she collapsed, unconscious. Eli stood over her, heart pounding. He knew nothing about her, but one thing was clear. She didn't come from the surface of Mars. She didn't come from Earth either, and she didn't come alone. Outside, the wind picked up again, and deep in the Martian soil, something ancient started to wake. Eli sat beside the medbay table, staring at the girl under the scanner's light. Her body was still, wrapped in warm blankets, skin pale like snow. She hadn't woken up since she collapsed. The station's AI Iris was running a deep scan, and the results were making no sense. She should be dead. Iris said again, voice sharp and emotionless. No lungs, no heartbeat, no organs. What do you mean? Eli asked quietly, eyes fixed on her face. She's not human, Iris replied, but her DNA is. The scanner blinked, showing something strange. Inside her chest was no heart, just a soft golden light, pulsing slowly. Not electricity, not fire, something else. Eli felt cold again, even though the heaters were working. The room didn't feel safe anymore. It felt watched. He checked her hand again, the same one that had held the note. The skin was no longer frostbitten. It had healed perfectly, but the note was still there, lying on the counter beside her, soaked, torn, yet still readable, warm. Me? He picked it up, staring at the shaky writing. Who wrote this? He asked aloud. I don't know, Iris answered, but the paper is not from this station. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, just like before, and a low humming sound filled the room. Like something waking up underground. The floor trembled slightly, only for a second. Iris said nothing, but Eli could tell it had noticed too. The girl's eyes opened, slowly. Still that soft silver glow. But weaker now, she looked at Eli, blinking like a newborn trying to remember how. He stepped closer, trying not to frighten her. Can you hear me? He asked. She nodded once, very slowly. What's your name? No answer. Where are you from? Her lips moved, but only one word came out, a whisper, barely a breath. Cold. Suddenly, alarms rang through the station. Eli rushed to the control panel and checked the screens. Section B frozen solid. The temperature had dropped to minus 120 degrees Celsius in minutes. Crew cryopods compromised. Iris warned. They're freezing from the inside. Eli's blood ran cold. No, not possible. The pods are sealed. He turned back to the girl. She was sitting up now, staring at him, eyes wide with fear. Tears in her eyes again, glowing faintly. I didn't mean to, she whispered. Her voice cracked like breaking ice. I was just looking. Eli didn't understand. What do you mean? Looking for what? She shook her head, pressing her hands to her temples. Warmth, she said. I only wanted warmth. Then she fainted again, falling back into the blankets. Eli stood frozen, not knowing what to believe. She looked human, spoke like a child, but every time she came close, things died. The heaters failed, the lights flickered, and now his team was in danger. Iris spoke again, voice urgent. Another note found. Eli turned to the screen. A new message had appeared in the cryo chamber, near one of the frozen pods. The camera zoomed in, a small piece of paper pressed against the glass. Written in the same shaky hand. You didn't warn me. Eli's heart dropped. He looked back at the girl. Still breathing softly. What was she? Why was she asking to be warmed? And what would happen if he couldn't? Outside the station, the Martian wind grew louder. But beneath it, something else was rising. A new signal, faint, pulsing from beneath the surface. Not natural, not human. Something was waking up. And it was coming for her. The research station was silent. Not the kind of silence that comforts, the kind that creeps into your chest and makes you afraid to breathe. Eli stood in the hallway, staring at the flickering lights. His fingers trembled, but not from the cold. This time, he had locked her inside the med bay, not to hurt her, but to protect the rest of the station and maybe her too. But the silence outside the door wasn't normal. It wasn't peaceful. It felt like the air itself was waiting. He placed his hand on the glass window of the med bay. Inside, she sat still on the floor, knees pulled to her chest. Her eyes were closed, and yet, the room was glowing softly, not from any lamp or screen, from her. Eli spoke softly through the intercom. "I don't know what you are," he said, "but I want to understand." Slowly, her eyes opened, silver light again. No fear, no anger, just sadness. She stood up, walked to the window, and placed her hand where his was. Her touch didn't feel cold this time. It felt like something else. Something inside him was warming up, not his skin, his memories. Suddenly, a flash in his mind, he saw a room filled with scientists. A young girl, floating in a glass tank, wires everywhere. A voice speaking from behind glass. We call it Project Heart Human Emotion-Aware Radiation Transfer. It turns feelings into power, then pain, screaming. The girl in the tank, eyes glowing, reaching out for someone, then darkness. Eli gasped and stepped back, breaking the connection. He looked at the girl again, who had tears in her eyes. "You saw it," she whispered. "You felt it." Eli nodded slowly. "You're from Earth." He said, "Not alien." She nodded once. "They sent me up," she said, "to learn, to feel, to grow. But they forgot me." Her voice cracked. "I drifted through space for years. Then, they found me." "Who?" Eli asked. She looked up at the ceiling like she was listening to something above them. "The cold ones," she said. "They have no hearts, no warmth, no memories. They use me to remember what it feels like to be alive." Eli felt a lump in his throat. "All this time, you've been asking for help." She nodded. "Not help," she whispered, "just warmth." She pressed her hand to the glass again. "Do you remember what warmth feels like?" she asked. Eli hesitated, then slowly placed his hand over hers again. Another memory. Eli as a child, holding his mother's hand during a thunderstorm. The sound of her laugh, the warmth of a blanket, the smell of cocoa, the feeling of being safe. The girl closed her eyes and smiled. "I remember too now," she said. Her voice was clearer, softer. Suddenly, alarms blared again. The station shook as a signal pierced through the atmosphere. Red lights flashed across every screen. A massive object was entering Mars' orbit, and it wasn't from Earth. "Iris," Eli called out. "What is that?" "Unidentified craft," the AI replied. "Massive heat signature followed by extreme cold shockwave. Time to impact, 47 minutes. The girl whispered one word. "They're coming." Eli turned to her. "Why?" "They want me," she said, "to drain me again because I have something they don't." "What?" She placed a hand over her heart where a human heart should be, but inside her, it pulsed with soft golden light. "The heat within," she said. "Emotion, memory, love, everything they can't make on their own." Eli stared at her. He knew now she wasn't a threat. She was a mirror, a reminder of everything humanity had lost in its race to survive space. "Its warmth won't let them take you," he said firmly. "But I need to know, how do we stop them?" The girl looked up, eyes shining. "We don't fight with weapons," she said. "We fight with memories." The station lights dimmed without warning. Outside, Mars was quiet. Too quiet. No wind, no dust storms. Not even a hum from the solar panels. It felt like the planet had stopped breathing. Eli stood in the command center, staring at the dark shape in orbit above them. It was massive, blocking out stars, cold and silent like a shadow frozen in space. Iris, the station. AI. Repeated the words again. Unidentified vessel approaching. No transponder, no response. Inside the medbay, the girl stood near the window. Her hands gripped the glass, her lips trembling. "They're here," she whispered. Her voice wasn't scared. It was heartbroken. Eli stepped beside her. "Who are they?" "They call themselves nothing," she said, "because they feel nothing. They travel across systems looking for what they lost. What did they lose?" She turned to him slowly. "You?" she said. "Me?" All of humanity he didn't understand. She placed a hand on his chest, over his heart. "This," she said. "They forgot how to feel. They forgot what warmth meant." Suddenly, a low rumble echoed beneath their feet. The floor vibrated slightly from deep underground. Something ancient stirred, a hidden chamber buried beneath the station's foundation, long forgotten. Built during the first Mars mission, never recorded in official logs, Iris announced. Subsurface heat bloom detected. Eli turned to the main screen. A red glowing shape appeared beneath the station, like a heartbeat awakening in the dust, the girl whispered. "They buried my first memory down there." Eli looked at her. Confused, "My memory," she repeated. "The one they took from me. The one that made me human." She walked toward the exit. Eli followed, silent, alert, as they reached the lower level. The air grew heavy. Lights flickered and buzzed. Cold shadows danced across the steel walls. At the end of the tunnel, a sealed door pulsed with dim orange light. She raised her hand, and it opened without a sound. The room beyond looked like a dream. A glowing orb floated in the center, humming softly around it. Strange symbols flickered in the air, alive with motion. "That's where they started the project," she said. "Project Heart. This is the original core. The first time emotion was turned into energy." Eli stepped closer. "What do we do with it?" She turned to him. "We charge it with something they can't touch." "Like what?" "Your memories," she said gently. "Real ones, pure ones. They can't copy what's real." Eli hesitated. "If I give them, will I forget?" She shook her head. "No, you'll remember, but they won't belong to you alone anymore. They'll be shared like a fire passed from one hand to another." He reached out, touched the orb, his mind flooded with warmth, laughter, childhood, fear, hope. His first time seeing Earth from orbit. His first heartbreak, his first time holding his newborn brother. The orb glowed brighter, spinning faster. The girl smiled, her eyes wide. "They can feel it now," she said. "It's hurting them above the surface." The black ship shifted. It released a strange pulse, not sound. Not light, but pure cold. A scream made of silence across the station. Systems began to freeze again. "Iris," Eli shouted, "divert power to heat walls," not responding. Iris replied, "They're shutting me down." The girl reached out and touched Eli's shoulder. Her voice now steady, powerful. "We have one chance," she said. "If they land, they will take everything, all warmth, all memory, all life. But if we light the core now, it becomes a beacon." "A beacon for what?" "For the others," she said. "The ones who remember, there are more like me. Lost in space, wandering, waiting. But warmth can guide them." Eli looked at her. "Then let's light it," he said. Together, they touched the core. The room filled with gold light above the station. The sky burned red. And far beyond Mars, something ancient and powerful turned its head and began to move. The black ship outside pulsed once more and started descending. The station's core room glowed like a sunrise in the dark. Eli stood with her beside the floating orb, both breathless, both changed. The warmth they had awakened wasn't just energy, it was memory, and it was spreading, but so was the cold. From above, the alien ship began its descent, slow and silent. Each pulse from it dropped the temperature by degrees. Sections of the station were turning to frost. Metal snapping under ice. Iris, barely online now, spoke with static in her voice. Memory surge detected, hidden files unlocking. A side panel slid open near the orb, inside an old capsule. Dusty, forgotten, sealed with EarthGov. Logos, it clicked open, releasing a slow puff of warm air. Inside, a small memory core drive, blinking for the first time in 23 years. Eli picked it up. What is it? The girl's eyes widened. My beginning, she said. My truth. She reached for it. And as soon as her fingers touched the metal, the room shimmered. Everything changed. Eli found himself standing in a different place, not physically. His mind had been pulled in, a clean lab on Earth. Years ago, scientists in white coats stared at a young girl in a glowing chamber. Her eyes were golden back then, not silver, and her smile was real. A woman stepped forward. Project Director Lane, head of the HARP program, she spoke to a camera. Test Subject 01 responds to warmth. Emotional input increases energy output. We believe she can power ships, even cities, just by feeling. Eli saw more. Experiments, endless tests, measuring her pain, her joy, her fear, then silence. The project was shut down, files deleted. The girl placed in a stasis capsule and launched toward Mars, not as a rescue, but as disposal, back in the present. Eli's hands trembled. You were thrown away, he said quietly. She nodded. They said, I was dangerous. She whispered, but I was just. Two alive tears formed in her eyes, but this time they didn't freeze. Eli stepped closer. You became something more. You're not just emotion. Hay said. Your memory made real. The orb pulsed again. Stronger, more. Files unlocked videos. Logs. Footage of the other test subjects. Some were lost in space. Some were turned into weapons. But one thing was clear. They were all children, born from science, built for feeling, abandoned by fear. Suddenly, alarms blared. The alien ship had entered the lower atmosphere. Red warning lights lit the room. Iris said, unknown signal detected, attempting to override station systems. Eli turned to the girl. What do they want now? She placed a hand over her chest again. My memory, she said. They want to erase what's left. Why? Because truth warms, she said, and they can't stand the heat. The walls began to crackle with frost. Iris's voice faded into static. Lights dimmed to red. Then to nothing. Only the orb still glowed softly, defiantly. Eli pulled out a portable memory uplink. Can we move this? He asked, pointing at the orb. She shook her head. It's part of the station now. Then what do we do? She looked up, her silver eyes fierce. We light the signal fully. Call. The others? What others? She stepped forward and opened her arms. All the forgotten, she said. All the ones who were thrown away like me. If we burn bright enough, they'll feel it. Eli hesitated. To burn that hot, he said, we'll need more than memory. She nodded slowly. We'll need sacrifice. The orb changed color from gold to deep red. It was ready, but it needed fuel. Living fuel. Eli looked down at the core drive in his hand. He could upload his memories into it, but once done, they'd be hers. Not his. He would remember fragments, faces without names, places without meaning. He would still be Eli, but not the same Eli. The girl looked at him, her voice small, but steady. If you give me your warmth, she said, I'll give you my fire. And somewhere above, the ship prepared to land. Its engines cold, but its hunger endless. Asterisk, the sky above Mars cracked open. A black ship tore through the upper. Clouds like a wound across the stars. No engines, no sound, just pure, falling cold inside the station. Warmth flickered like a candle in the wind. And in the heart of that flicker stood Eli. He stared at the glowing orb, its light now pulsing red. Not angry, not broken, but ready. The girl stood beside him, her silver eyes dim but hopeful. "You don't have to," she whispered. But her voice trembled, not from fear, but from knowing. She already felt what he had chosen. Before he even said it, Eli looked down at the memory drive still in his hand. It hummed gently, holding everything that made him, his mother's voice. The smell of old books from Earth, the time he broke his arm learning to fly, his first station post. His last goodbye, all of it, one by one, would be passed into her, turned into heat, turned into fire. The fire she needed to fight back, the warmth they needed to survive. "If I give you my memories," Eli said quietly, "will I still be me?" She looked at him. "Not in the way you remember," she said, "but in the way I will." She stepped closer, placing her hand over his heart. "It won't erase you," she added. "It will echo you forever." Outside, the ship released its first pulse. The outer walls of the station began to crack. The frost moved like fingers across steel, crawling toward them. Time was running out. Eli closed his eyes and took one long breath, then nodded. "Do it." She reached for the core drive and slid it into the orb socket. The light flared instantly, golden and white. Then silence. For a moment, Eli felt nothing. Then everything. His memories were rushing out of him like fire through a wire. Not being stolen, but shared, she gasped. Holding onto his arm as each moment filled her, his childhood became her own. His pain became her strength. His joy gave her purpose. She began to glow. Not silver, not gold, something brighter. Something alive. A form made of memory and fire. She was no longer frozen. She was burning. Eli fell to his knees, breathing hard. The warmth inside him faded gently, not painfully, but like sunset. He still remembered his name, but not his brother's face. He remembered Earth, but not how it smelled. He remembered love, but not who he had loved. She kneeled beside him, holding his hand tight. "You gave me your fire," she said softly, "and now I'll use it too." Melt the stars. The orb rose into the air, pulsing faster, louder. It sent out a beam, not of light, but of feeling. A flare made of memory, reaching beyond Mars into deep space, calling to the lost ones, the forgotten ones, the broken children of Earth's abandoned science. And they heard it all across the galaxy. Tiny sparks flickered awake, eyes opened, hearts stirred. And ships began to turn, but not all were friends. The cold ones had landed. The black ship cracked. Open like a broken shell, out stepped shadows with no faces. They did not speak. They did not move with sound. They were the memory eaters, the warmth stealers, and they had come for the last ember. But what waited for them was not fear. It was her. She stepped out of the station, alone, but carrying thousands of moments within her. Each memory glowing inside like a star. The cold ones reached toward her, and burned, they screamed, though they had no mouths. They cracked, though they had no bones. Because she was no longer just a girl, she was fire. She was warmth. She was humanity's forgotten soul, returned. And Eli, sitting at the station window, watched her become light. Not knowing exactly who she was, but feeling warm for the first time in hours, he smiled. The sky above Mars turned orange, not from sunlight, but from memory. The cold ones were gone. Their shadows burned into nothing by the warmth they could never understand. The girl no longer just a test subject, no longer just lost data, had become something new, something the universe hadn't seen in centuries. A flame born from emotion, from a single whisper. Warm me inside the station. Eli sat alone, not in pain, not in fear, but in quiet. His memories were soft now, distant, like dreams remembered after waking. He remembered the girl, her eyes, her voice, the way she touched the glass. But he didn't remember why she mattered, and yet she did. He felt her warmth like a silent song in his chest. He didn't know her name, but he felt her goodbye, outside. Where the Martian wind once howled, now stood silence, and from that silence came footsteps. She returned, no longer glowing bright, no longer fire, just a girl, wrapped in a single silver thread of warmth. She walked back into the station, quietly, found Eli asleep in the chair, eyes closed, hands folded across his chest. He looked peaceful. She bent down and kissed his forehead. Her voice was only a whisper now, but it reached him. "Thank you," she said. "You warmed me." She placed a small note beside him, folded and written in that same soft handwriting. The words read, "He gave me warmth, so I became the sun." The lights flickered gently as she walked away. Not fading, changing, transforming. She stepped out into the Martian dawn. The sky behind her slowly turning gold. She wasn't alone now, across the atmosphere. Signals lit up small flares, blinking back at her. Other lights answering her call. Other children of memory, alive, awakened, returning. The forgotten had heard the warmth, and they were coming home. The girl looked back once at the station. At the place where she had first knocked, shivering, silent, holding a note. Her lips were no longer frozen, her eyes no longer silver. They were human again. And as the wind moved gently across the Martian ground, the note beside Eli fluttered. Then rested, its final message, a whisper only the warm can hear. "Warm me. One last time."